Hi, my name is Alice Crayley, and recently my grandmother bought me this journal, which I'm going to be writing my dreams in. And I've been thinking of doing this for a while, where I make some sort of video diary, because it's difficult for me to upkeep with writing, you know. Of course, I've written my dream down, but it's difficult for me to make a diary where I write things down and stay consistent on it because I always forget. But I feel like since I am passionate about video making, I feel like this will keep me more in the loop with that sort of thing. And I'm not going to do like an everyday sort of thing, just when I have something worthy to share. So, because, sometimes I might just have no dream or a boring dream or that sort of thing. No such thing as boring dream, of course, but, depends. But it can still be consistent. So, today I wanted to talk to you about the dream I had last night. And what comes with that, Funnily enough, with a lot of my dreams, I kind of have two different dreams, which kind of cut between each other. Kind of like a movie scene. Or like a movie with two different plot lines, except the plot lines have nothing to do with each other. So this is interesting. This is very interesting. It's actually what made me want to start the journal in the first place. So, the first dream I had pertains to my mother's side of the family. My grandfather, while he was alive, was a very central figure to my family. He was very important. He was an integral part of everyone's lives. I didn't know him as well as I wanted to. I think I was about 6 to 10 when he died. It's difficult for me to remember things like that, but I knew him and I loved him, but I wasn't close with him as much as everyone else was. Neither were my younger siblings. So as I age, I hear a lot about him and how the kind of man he was. He did a lot, He was a photographer, he was a director, a writer, he was an artist. He had so many crazy things happen to him. He was going to be a vice president, so I'm told. And he was going to, he shot a man once in an armed robbery situation. And it's like, wow, what a life, So, and I hear all this about him, and it's just like, wow. So, of course, he was a loving man. He was a bit of a peculiar man, but he was a loving man. And he has a lot of good power in our family. And I find myself regretting his passing and wishing I could spend more time with him today. I dreamt about him last night. I dreamt that we were having a family outing on my mother's side of the family. I don't know where we were. We were in some sort of parking lot. We were all grouped up walking towards the car, and there was Papa. He seemed a jovial, happy, talkative, and what was strange about him is that his entire body and clothes were photo negative. I don't know if you've ever seen a photo negative, like before it's developed. A photo negative where all the blacks are white, all the whites are black. Or if you've ever seen like a photo negative filter, that's what he looked like. And no one was particularly interested in this fact. Like, this was just a fact of the reality of the dream. He was photo negative, which was very interesting. And I didn't seem too peculiarized by it, if that's a word. But I must have known I was in a dream, or I must have known he had passed, because I came up behind him and I gave him a big hug. And of course, I was me. I wasn't a kid. I was me, as I am today. And I came up from behind him and I gave him a big hug. I hugged him from behind, and he laughed a bit and he gave me a hug back. And we all got in the car. I don't know how. It was everyone. It was my siblings, my cousins. We all got in this 4-person, 6-person car, and it's like, I don't know how we did that, but dream logic. And we got back to the house. The house was not the house, my family's residence. It was a house I lived in when I was in New Orleans. Um, Again, it was a smaller house. So again, another instance of a smaller space being able to fit a large amount of people, which interesting, right? That could mean a lot of different things. And it seems like while we were sitting in this house, the family dynamics seemed to have shifted. My brother, who's usually very, he keeps to himself, was very playful and out there running about. My cousin, who, on the contrary, is very playful, jovial, was very vindictive and angry. It's almost like I was peering into a different universe. And that was the first dream. Again, there was like two dreams in one, which is common for me. And it was being, what was that? It was being intercut with this other dream. Sorry, sometimes. Anyway, so yeah, that was dream one. Very interesting. A lot of themes of like shadow, light, of course, convening with the dead. What might be, what could have been, and a very large amount of people or things being put into a smaller space than adequated for, which is interesting. Maybe that means maybe I'm not making enough space for my feelings as I think I am. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough time to address certain things as I think I am. So a lot to think about, a lot to ponder on. Very interesting. And then dream two was kind of like a fable. It was very interesting, a little disturbing. I do often have disturbing dreams. The second dream was at the base of a very large tree, a wooden, like, color dream, like a tan, dead tree. And at the base were two young men talking. The first young man, who I'll name Billy, was a bigger man. He was wearing very jovial clothes. He was wearing like a striped blue a striped blue shirt, shorts, a blue baseball cap, kind of like the guy from Silent Hill 2. I forget his name. And he was talking to his other young man, who I'll name Jack. Jack was reluctantly friends with Billy. And he wore a red shirt and a large black leather coat. And this dream was interesting. It played out like a movie. They were both being chased by their doppelgangers. Jack kept to himself. He was very quiet. He was very matter of fact. He didn't have any friends. Billy was kind of your stereotypical bully. He bullied younger kids. He would kind of like hassle them for money. Kind of like, he was strange young adult, young man, teenager. I don't know their age. They were being chased through the woods by their doppelgangers. And these doppelgangers were wearing masks, and they would reveal to them what was under their masks every time they saw them, to reveal that they were doppelgangers. Billy was being chased by his doppelganger, who was in a butcher's uniform with a striped, almost candy cane-like shirt and a large butcher's coat and a hat and a pig's mask. I made a cute little doodle of it right there. Yeah, so that's what he was wearing, the pig mask, and he was being chased. And his doppelganger went after children, and he also went after Billy. Jack's doppelganger was wearing a fox mask and had a longer black hair and was wearing a red dress, kind of like a red fabric kind of dress. He was being chased by him, and Jack went after adults. He killed adults. Or Jack's doppelganger went after and killed adults, and he also went after Jack. So that was kind of how the dream played out. They were both being chased by their doppelgangers. Very a little strange, It's kind of like a fable where it also plays into the shadow element of the last dream, kind of like, the Hungian shadow, like unaddressed parts of themselves. Maybe Billy was a bad man who would hurt children, like kill children, like a future child murderer, something like that. Very disturbing, of course. Maybe that's why he bullied children and kept it at that. Maybe there's an unaddressed part of himself that wanted to hurt others. And Jack, maybe he had the same thing, but for adults. He had a hatred for the adults in his life. And maybe with him being shy and reserved, the red-dressed fox-masked doppelganger was like the part of himself that didn't come out. The part of himself that wasn't embodied by what the doppelganger was. I'm sorry, that's kind of a vague way to describe it. But yeah, that was the second dream. And like I said, it intercut between the two, almost like a movie, which was interesting because it would go between first person me and it would go to where it's just a movie, like a movie. All around, just a movie, like, it's interesting where it would go between, my first person perspective in the movie, I know I keep repeating myself, but so a lot of Hungian shadow, a lot of yin yang, two symbols that I particularly really like. So it's interesting. The second dream was kind of like a fable, but yeah, that concludes that for today. Thank you so much for listening if you made it this far. And I think I've addressed everything. What's interesting is my cousin actually had a very interesting dream to, first dream. The first dream I mentioned, where she dreamt of Papa, and we were all in a family outing. Everyone made it seem, normal. And she went up to him and she was like, and I guess he was talking to her, and she went, "But you're dead, you're dead. You shouldn't be here." And he kind of gave her some sort of unreadable look, and the dream ended. So very interesting. But yeah, that should be it for today. I'll see you again later.